I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Which is more valuable, silver, gold, or platinum? If you're thinking credit cards, platinum may spell power, but for cars, the shine's on silver. When we come back, I'll give you the highlights.
O'Reilly. When your battery goes dead, everything comes to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts will help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Gold's great and platinum's precious, but drivers agree silver's the color for cars. DuPont's Global Color Popularity Report has tracked car color trends for over 50 years, and this year's stats say silver's supreme, reportedly a reflection on technology-focused lifestyles and the new sharp lines in vehicle design. The second most popular color is white, followed by black, blue, green, medium red, light brown, gold, bright red, and medium gray. Whatever color car you keep, wash and shine it. Not only will your car mirror your pride, but it'll also be worth more silver dollars at trade-in time. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Are you wishing and hoping and dreaming? About cars, that is? Teachers used to scold for idling away the hours. Now they give high fives. When I come back, I'll tell you all about it.
O'Reilly. When your battery goes dead, everything comes to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts will help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Daydreaming in class used to get you a trip to the principal's office. Now it could be your ticket to the winner's circle. Daimler Chrysler is sponsoring the Build Your Dream Vehicle competition. Students conceive and design futuristic, environment-friendly automobiles, then present three-dimensional models and marketing plans to judges. Trophies and cash may be the destinations students have in mind, but along the way, they learn about teamwork, finance, technology, and communication. And who knows, their dreams may find the way to your garage. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And a special good morning. Welcome to today's edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Sit back and ride along with me for this hour. And you and I will talk cars and a lot of other things in between, from tires to wheels to brakes to fuel to oil. They're changing oil all the time, and it's amazing. You would think that by now everything that could be invented, in fact, if you remember the patent office years ago, so who was it said that, Jonathan, everything that could be invented already and patented already has been. And it's amazing because a couple of years ago the report was that Bosch was patenting no less than 3,500 items a year. I mean, that's amazing. I'm not talking about applied for. I'm talking about patent. Okay, John will take your calls at 888 Car Clinic, and I will put you on the air. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by O'Reilly Auto Parts. If you have a car problem, but you don't know where to go, maybe you're not too close or to home when your car breaks down, hopefully. But let O'Reilly Auto Parts help. With O'Reilly Auto Parts referral program, folks, you can take the guesswork out of finding a great repair shop wherever you are. Call an O'Reilly location near you, or you can visit O'ReillyAuto.com. That's O'ReillyAuto.com, and click Find a Repair Shop to find a reputable repair facility or service center for your repairs. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, and service every day. I'm Bobby Likis, 888 Car Clinic, when I come back.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour.
Bad waveform signal needs to be fixed. Our solution? A new crankshaft position sensor from Motorrad. A longtime leader for vehicle thermostats and caps, Motorrad now offers engine management products that are engineered to meet and or exceed OEM specifications. They're designed to perform under severe operating conditions and are resistant to extreme heat. We made the change, and that fixed the car. Motorrad engine management products are manufactured in Tier 1 OEM facilities with top quality qualifications. They undergo comprehensive 100% in-line and end-of-line testing to ensure uncompromising quality. Learn more about Motorrad engine management products and other Motorrad solutions at Motorrad.com. All brake parts are not created equal. In the service bay this week, a 2018 Explorer with 65,000 miles. The customer's complaint? Brake pulsation at highway speeds. We performed a road test plus a thorough four-wheel brake inspection using a dial indicator to precisely measure the front rotors. We determined the rotors were warped and had excessive runout. Why? Poorly made replacement parts. This generation Explorer features a heavy-duty brake system designed with large vented rotors. Lots of surface area for proper stopping power. The thinner and lighter weight off-brand rotors installed didn't have enough material to support the brake operation correctly. After consulting with the customer, we installed a set of Motorcraft rotors and pads. We also flushed the brake fluid, and the end result was a vehicle that stopped properly, like the manufacturer intended. Motorcraft parts are specifically designed for all your Ford and Lincoln repairs and are backed by a limited 2-year, unlimited mileage warranty, including labor with no commercial exceptions. Motorcraft, right part, priced right. Learn more about Motorcraft brake parts and other high-quality vehicle-specific parts at Motorcraft.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P-Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow. Now you're here, your aroma helps me wake, and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started. The number to call is 888-227-2546. That's 227-2546. John Irvin will take your calls, and John is a new member of the Car Clinic Network team and has done an outstanding job so far. And Jonathan is working the board today. Fabio has the day off. So, which proves that I'm a good boss. Actually, he's working another gig at what he's doing. That's right, isn't it right? Fabio's probably in South, in either South Georgia, I think. I'm not quite sure, but in addition to being and producing the broadcast for Bobby Likis Car Clinic, Fabio also and his partner. He has a partner in a small business. Travels on locations and shoots and edits and all those things. You know, it's like being a technician, I guess. Everywhere you go, everyone has a car question. And that's happened to me all my life. And at one time, actually, I'm sitting there, folks, trying to eat. And somebody walks over. I don't mean to bother you, but could I ask you a car question? and I mean, what are you going to say? So eventually I learned, this was after several years, that the pat answer was, and it's true, no, I'd be disappointed if you didn't. And so I can only imagine how a movie star would feel with that much notoriety. And in some places we go, people recognize us and recognize sometimes my voice more so than they do my face. But we've produced Bobby Likis Car Clinic radio and television since 1986 is actually when we started. We started the radio network in 1991, and it's been a great ride. And recently, if you tuned into Bobby Likis Car Clinic, you know that last week or so I talked about a letter that I got, or a note. I wouldn't call it a letter. A note that I got from someone saying that, well, it's the time for you to retire. You tend to ramble on. Well, let me tell you something, folks. I mentioned that last week, and I had, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, half a dozen of you folks that were so kind to call in and say, hey, man, don't retire. We want you to stay right there where you are and provide the information. So to that end, if you've never tuned into this program, I have 48 years in operating my own automotive service shop. So been there, done that. And to that vein, I also have been associated with many, many different sponsors, so I know the inside scoop on products. And granted, those products, for the most part, have been products that I endorse on this radio program. But there are also products that are no longer connected with me through whatever PR companies. And PR companies have their own, I don't know what you would call it, their own ideas of marketing. But what's really important to you with regard to the health of your car is that you need to know what the best product is, or at least how to go about finding the best product, or how to go about finding the best car, or getting better gas mileage, or just, there's a myriad of questions that we all have, like going to a doctor. And so that's really what I'm here for, is to help you to better understand the nature of the vehicle that you drive. I usually say the nature of the beast, and sometimes it can be a beast. But overall, if you just understood that the engine is nothing more than an air pump, really. I mean, just think about it. You have a balloon. Just think about a balloon. You got a little tiny balloon the size of your thumb, and it doesn't take much of a lung power to blow it up. So the more air you can get in that balloon before it bursts, then when it bursts, or when you add fuel to it, if it were a combustion chamber inside an engine, and then light a match, then it would really burst, right? So it would either make puff or boom, depending on how much air that you could force in there. And there's the why it's called an air pump. That's what an engine is, internal combustion engine, because when you open its mouth for it to gasp air, depending on the pressure of the air and the lack of pressure inside the cylinder, air rushes in and fills the balloon or fills the combustion chamber. Add a little fuel, add a little spark, and magic happens. It's not an explosion. Now wait, you really think that it is, because you heard exhaust, loud cars that have a broken exhaust, or maybe you've had a muffler come off before, and what you're hearing is those explosions inside the cylinder, but they really are not explosions. There are controlled flame fronts, which means that if you've seen, like in the movies where the bad guys light a match and they want to blow up a car and they have a trail of gasoline, which I'm not sure that would really work. I guess it would if you weren't in the grass, perhaps, depending on much of a trail. But you light a match and you can see the flames go toward the car and bloom when it gets to the automobile, and that's what gasoline does, or any flammable liquid, of course, with air, as long as you have air. See, so what is the most important part of an engine? Well, I won't say the most important, because then I'd get into the technical, but what is the main ingredient is air, and the more air. So if you take a breath, then you can only get, depending on your lung size and how big a gulp of air that you take, as much air as possible in your lungs. Well, as I said, if that's a balloon, depending on the throttle opening, and you control the throttle opening, you nail the throttle all the way to the floor, and then the engine will try to draw in as much air as the air will push. Now, how do you get more air in a cylinder? How do you make a little balloon explode with the violence or the pressure of a large balloon? You put a turbocharger on your engine, or a supercharger. What is that? It's a pressurized airflow, so that rather than depend on the atmospheric pressure following the lack of pressure when the piston goes down and filling the balloon or filling the combustion chamber with air, you're actually forcing more air into. It would be analogous to, and you wouldn't do this in a hurricane. I don't know if you've ever been through a hurricane. You're not missing anything. You don't want to be there. But if you were to, in the most violent part of a hurricane, open, say, one of the doors of your home, that would not be a good thing, because the pressure would literally could blow the roof off your home. And so that's what a turbocharger does. And so today, and you'll see in the near future, if not today, I don't have the stat, but some 80% of automobiles manufactured have turbochargers. Why? And here's the really neat thing. It's neat to me from a car guy standpoint, and from you folks out there, the power density. Power density. Well, what does that mean? Power density is the amount of energy and power you can extract from the size of the engine. So if I'm a big guy and I can press 500 pounds, or strong, don't have to be big, but strong, and press 500 pounds, I've got a pretty good power density. Now, yours truly could do well to press 100 pounds, but that's called power density. So where you really increase gas mileage and efficiency is you put a smaller engine, because a smaller engine uses less fuel. Why? Well, because it's a smaller engine. So than a bigger one. It takes less fuel to go 60 miles an hour with a four-cylinder engine and a turbocharged than it does with a V6 or a V8, because of the sweet spot. Now, that's another technical issue that I won't get into, except to tell you that when you create power density, you take a smaller engine and you get more power from a smaller engine. Remember, the little balloon versus the big balloon, because you're forcing air in it. And that's what manufacturers are doing. I mean, the most famous, I think, probably is EcoBoost, which when Ford came out with the EcoBoost, that was my favorite, absolute favorite engine, and still is one of my favorite engines, because the EcoBoost was a V6 engine, twin turbo. Now, why would you put twin turbos? You say, well, hey, that's to get more air in there, right? Well, actually, that's true, but that's not the reason. The reason that you have twin turbos is because the turbocharger has to spool up 100,000 RPM. Well, what drives the turbocharger? The exhaust of your engine. So the exhaust of the engine drives the turbo. The turbo shaft goes through and it drives and forces more air. So more air in, more air out, and it's like a vicious circle, or a fantastic circle, 360 degree, where the more air in, the more pressure exhaust out, and the more pressure pushes the turbo. And literally, if it weren't for the fact that you had a wastegate, just like you got horses in a corral, you want to get them out, scare them and open the gate and they all run out. Well, that's the same way that you control the pressure in a turbocharger, because the wastegate, which is electronically controlled these days, will bypass the exhaust, so that not all of the exhaust is being used to force more air in, because you can literally create as much power as the occasion calls for until the engine blows apart by forcing more air and those sorts of things. Of course, there's a fuel too, and the octane of the fuel really controls how much pressure you can put in there. Hey, I'll take your calls, but I gotta go for a commercial break. 888 Car Clinic. Today's vehicles face challenging conditions with more than 150 accessories for safety and comfort, such as backup cameras and entertainment systems. They're like second homes. Clarius is the world's largest producer of automotive AGM batteries that are precision engineered to be reliable, durable, and safely meet these challenging needs. AGM batteries have up to 2 times the life of traditional batteries and are non-spillable. The next time you need a battery, ask for an AGM battery to meet today's driving and electrical demands. Visit autobatteries.com. That's autobatteries.com.
Looking for a new career path? Interested in serving your local community? Become a teacher. American Board for the Certification of Teacher Excellence can help you earn a teaching certificate in a year or less. American Board's online program allows you to set your own schedule for a price that fits your budget. Visit www.americanboard.org. That's americanboard.org for more information on how you can become a teacher.
This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Folks, this week we had an 04 Lexus RX 330 with 170,000 miles in the shop with power steering and cooling system issues. Close inspection found a leaking hose, but the cooling system had multiple issues. Leaking radiator, both upper and lower hoses cracking, and a cooling system badly corroded. We called our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional, ordered a new radiator, power steering hose, and thermostat. We always replace a thermostat whenever we're repairing a cooling system to ensure the engine's temperature is properly controlled. What our service team really appreciates about the O'Reilly Auto Parts team is they group all of our parts in one batch and deliver them on time. This may seem like a small thing to do, but it helps our technicians complete the job correctly and on time, first time. We also flush the entire cooling system to protect the new radiator and restore life to this older Lexus. This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher at 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I want to remind you that you can go to Car Clinic Network. That's all one word, not case sensitive. carclinicnetwork.com and click on Car Clinic Library /podcast. And you can download this program for your convenience to listen to it at a later time. Or if you heard the tail end of an answer to one of my caller's questions but didn't quite understand what I was talking about, and get a second listen and better understand. And you can go to iTunes as well and download, and you can subscribe. And, of course, when you subscribe, it will automatically, you set it up where your phone automatically or your computer downloads it in the background. So it's always there. It's always updated. I know that we have a lot of people, because from time to time when we have a glitch on our website, we get calls and say, hey, "What happened to the program? It's not. I can't get to it." Gas prices, the regular gasoline prices for the nation this week are $2.42, and overall, let's see, it's about 50-50 in regions across the nation. The same time last year, gas prices are up and down. But overall, it's kind of a nit, because $2.42 for a gallon of gas, even in California, it's $2.85. Well, $3.13, and then the West Coast, less California, is $2.85, and only $3.13 in California. So you might say that gasoline is a good, a less expensive commodity, and really transportation-wise, it really is. Makes me wonder, and I've said this many times on air. How do you set what sets or what constant, what variable adjusts the price of gasoline? 70, and I understand 70% of that is the price of crude, and of course the price of crude has to do a lot with the economy of scale to the globe. And of course, crude oil is not as valuable as it was because there are alternatives, and we're going to hear a lot more like the electric vehicles. We're going to talk a little bit more about electric vehicles a little bit later on, and that depends on you. You give me a call and give me a subject that you'd like to discuss, or maybe you got a question. Maybe you got to buy a new car, or better yet, because you can go online and see a lot of information about manufacturers. Some sites are really great. Some are really clunky. I mean, like if you wanted to build a new, and I love to go online and build cars, and then I can just have any car that I want. Not that I can drive it or afford it, but I can build that car, and then put it on my refrigerator, and then work toward that goal. That's the way it works. And I've got one of those cars in mind. I won't go there, but it's really quite beautiful. The car that I drive is quite beautiful. It was one that I had built when Ratan Tata bought Jag from Ford. He gave carte blanche to his team to design a new Jaguar and build a new car. And Ian Callum was the designer. And in 2010, he designed the XJ, which is the flagship for Jaguar Land Rover, and it's a gorgeous car. It's a little bit outdated now because that body style's been around since 2010, and this is 2020. And really, seven, just for you information, folks, 7 years is about the run of a body style. And by the way, if you're concerned about buying a new car because they changed the body that year, don't be concerned. 30 years ago, yeah, give it a year or two and work the bugs out. That's just not the case these days, because the engineering, the computerization of automobiles, the manufacturing processes. I mean, I can't tell you, and just think about this. How many of you have called me and said, Bobby, I've got 185,000 miles on my engine and it kind of misfires? Folks, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, a V8 Chevrolet that had 50,000 miles on it had to have the heads removed and new valve guides. I mean, that's just because it wore out. And now you got a four-cylinder engine that pumps a lot harder than a V8 because it's a smaller engine, so it turns more RPM per mile than a V8 does. And those engines are going 200, 300,000 miles. Now, how do you ensure you get 200, 300,000 miles? That's where you come in, and that's where this program comes in, because I can help you understand what you need to do to maintain that automobile. So that's what I really enjoy in this program. So now I want to share with you a letter that I got from a listener in Daytona. So for those of you who live in the Ormond Beach and the Daytona Beach area, one of our flagship stations and our inaugural stations of the 4 stations that we started on in 2 states, WNDB 1150 News Talk was one of our first. And Mark Bernier, in fact, Mark Bernier called last week. First time he'd ever called into the program, but I've met this gentleman many times. And when I produce remote broadcast in Daytona, I was a guest on his program as well. And he's really so well known. You should look him up online, Mark Bernier. Now, having said that, well, he called because he had wanted some information about a 2019 automobile and about recalls. And so for recalls, you could go to NHTSA, or National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. That's NHTSA.gov, or you can go to safercar.gov. Put your VIN number. That's a 17-digit alphanumeric digit number for your original birth certificate of your car. And you can put that in online, and because you hear about, let's say you drive a Chrysler and there's a recall. Oh, well, is mine involved? And your neighbor could have the same vehicle that you've got, same year, same make, same model, even the same color. And you say, well, and maybe there was a fire hazard. You say, oh my gosh, I'm worried now. And you don't need to be worried. You need to drive with confidence and comfort when you drive a car on the highway. So the letter that your neighbor got with the same vehicle you have, and you didn't get a letter, might not even be applicable to your car, the recall. So how do you know? You just go to safercar.gov and put in your VIN, and if there's an open recall or even closed recall, there's a history of it there, and the government gives you that opportunity, which I think is way cool. Now, getting back to just a quick note here, and I want to sincerely from the bottom of my heart, thank this individual from Daytona, and I want to read this letter to you. And this letter is in response to, and I received this this week, on the 4th. I received this from this Anne-Marie Aguirre, and she's a PhD, and I want to read this to you. Dear Mr. Likis, and this is in response to the note that I got from someone that said maybe you should retire, and yada yada. She said, Dear Mr. Likis, I don't know a thing about cars, but I listen to your Saturday broadcast on WNDB every Saturday. I enjoy it so much that I listen to the rerun every Saturday night. It upset me to hear you say last Saturday that a listener thought you should take less time with your callers. Prior to retiring as an assistant principal, I was a teacher. When I asked a question in class, I always prodded the student who was answering to expand upon his or her answer to come up with various ways to solve the problem and to use deductive reasoning. If you were a student in one of my classes, I would give you an A+ for every answer you provide your callers. You're well-versed in your field, you're kind, caring, humorous, thoughtful, and respectful with your callers. Please continue to provide many more years of advice for your callers. You don't want this former teacher to give you a grade of F- for attendance because your broadcast is no longer on the air. God bless you, and ignore those with mean-spirited hearts. Most sincerely, Dr. Anne-Marie Aguirre, WNDB, Daytona. So there you have it. So I thank you, Anne-Marie. You're kind and you're caring, and your thoughts are most appreciated and come at a great time, because I could retire, but I ain't gonna. So we're going to go to a listener. We have many listeners in different parts of the world, because we are on the World Wide Web as we speak at watchbobbylive.com, and you can get this program, watchbobbylive.com, And I'm going to go to Victor in Washington. But before I do, we'll do that on the next after this break, because I don't want to have an interruption in the conversation. In the meantime, let me share with you what I did yesterday. I say I. This is about, it's a promo or an attaboy for a young man named Richard Campbell. And folks, he took pictures of my classic Porsche that I've decided that I am going to put on the market for sale. And in order to really show the vehicle, of course, you'd have to see it in person to believe it, but he took pictures. We started at 2:30, and as a backdrop, we used a friend of mine who built a new home, actually a home on 2 lots, Jim Cronley, and we used his driveway, which is a nice courtyard, a beautiful, beautiful home. And Richard used, and I asked him, a Sony A7R3 camera. That's a Sony A7R3 with a Sigma lens. And he told me he uses 85 millimeter lens and because he gets the best job there. So I want to thank Richard Campbell, and he actually doesn't work as a photographer except for certain special gigs, but I think that's what he really wants to do. So if you need someone that to take professional pictures, you can go to his website. It's ttimediasolutions.com. I'll tell you more about it when I come back from this break. Don't go away. With 48 years experience in automotive repair, our service team knows what dirty gasoline does inside an engine. Over time and miles, fuel residue and hot oil vapors create nasty, hardened clusters of carbon that block airflow into cylinders, collect on valves, and build up inside combustion chambers, causing hard starting, rough idle, sluggish engine performance, and bad gas mileage. Solution? Berryman B60 High Mileage Fuel System Rejuvenator. B60 cleans the entire fuel system of all high-mileage gas-powered vehicles with powerful detergents and HEST solvents. That's high-energy solvent technology at work. B60 gives you one-tank cleanup of fuel injectors, intake valves, and combustion chambers. Restore lost power, reduce rough idle, improve fuel economy, and enjoy your drive again. Berryman B60 High-Mileage Fuel System Rejuvenator is the only fuel system cleaner with HEST solvents. Pick up a can at your local auto parts store today. For more, visit BerrymanProducts.com. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, brought to you in part by Berryman Engine Oil Extender. Folks, as your engine runs, it slowly depletes additives in the oil. Berryman Engine Oil Extender is a super premium engine oil additive formulated to extend the life of all in-service gasoline and diesel engine oils by up to 50%. You can learn more at berrymanproducts.com. Now let me break that down for you. Oil doesn't wear out. It's the additives in the oil that do wear out and deplete because they're impartial. They're not in a quart of oil, 75 to 85% of that oil is the crude refined. That's called base stock. The difference between different oils, whether it's Castrol, Mobil 1, Royal Purple, the difference is not the oil, it is the additive package that each oil refiner, each oil maker, they don't make oil, but they make the additives and buy them from chemical companies like DuPont and other companies like that, and they blend them. So it's like wine, like blended wine. So the blending of and the additive package, which includes dispersants. Well, what's a dispersant? That's where the dirt in your engine is floating around versus hopefully building up on the walls and it floats. And so when you change the oil, that's why you change the oil, because the oil gets dirty. That's a good thing. Now, it's not good if the oil gets dirty prematurely, but it's good to change the oil because that flushes, it doesn't flush the engine, it drains the oil. There's a difference between flushing an engine, and Berryman makes a product for that as well. That really is something you should consider if you've got an older engine or you bought a used car. Yeah, you bought a used car and you just don't have, that's what you don't get as a rule, except for certified. You bought a used car, but you're not sure of its owner and how they took care of the car. And for your information, even though Mercedes and Chevrolet and Ford and Dodge and all the manufacturers have their own vernacular for certified vehicles, there is one common denominator. Every certified used car that can be certified, that is certified, has one common factor: history of service records. So just remember that. And when somebody's trying to sell you a car and you say, well, may I drive it? Yeah, sure. Can I smell it? Yeah, sure. Can I, whatever. Okay, may I see the service records? And all of a sudden there's this pause. Well, I took care of this car. I changed the oil every time I thought about it. Folks, that doesn't get it. It does not. So anyway, that's what certified cars are, and that's what Berryman Oil Extender does. It's actually the same packages, and some that's not, because some oil doesn't have the good stuff in it that older oils used to, like zinc and ZDDP, and you can look that up too. But let's go to Victor and take your calls. Now's a good time for you to get in. Plenty of time left. 888-227-2546. Victor, thank you for your patience. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic this morning.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. Always good to talk to you. But anyway, I was going to ask you a question. Supposing you had an engine there, that new type engine, and you get a patent on it. How would you handle it? I bet you have you taken out patents before?
I have not. Well, I have on trademarks, not patents, but trademarks on logos for my business, and for Booster Shot, which was ironically exactly what I just talked about with Berryman. That's really what I came up with that term, because I'm always trying to connect people with cars with the jargon that we use in automotive repair, so they can understand, because that's what we do. With cause and effect, that's what we do. Fix cars. What caused it, and what's going to take to repair. So to that vein, yes, but I have not taken. But I know the process, if that's what you're asking, because I know someone that has.
Okay, now I sent off a application for a patent about a week ago, and I haven't got the definition back whether they received it or not, so I'm not going to go too far with it. But anyway, I've dreamt up new type engine that basically you don't need a spark plug and you don't need a injector, and you can burn any mixture of fuel as lean as you want and still ignite it. But so I don't. I'm not going to go any further than that on it. But right now, until I get proof that it didn't get lost in the mail or something, you know.
Well, there you can go online to that end. You asked me if I had done. I've gone through that process before, so there is an interactive website that allows you to apply for. And in this case, I can only say what we did, Victor, and that was with our pre-repair. And pre-repair stands for the prevention of repair. And quite candidly, after so many years in the business, I mean, the hardest thing you do is to help people understand why it costs so much money to repair an automobile, especially when you do it right, and then you've got a shop down the street that is, for all intents and purposes, a chop shop, and that's a slam because you can't get something for nothing. So, and to that end, I was always appalled by my industry colleagues, if you call it that, you know, maybe second, third, fourth degree, changing oil and filter in a car for $20 when you can't even open the hood, or you can't even pay the lights, gas, and you can't even buy the oil and filter for that. So what was that for? And as you know, in the industry, it's called to increase car count. So if you can get 100 cars through your shop, then you can sell X amount of service. If you can get 500, you can sell more. The bottom line, I always had an issue with that because I think it's tantamount to false advertisement. I think it's like, get them in here and upsell. And now that public knows that. See, now, pardon me. So people know that there's no free lunch, but you can always say no. And here's one. And so how would I have done it? The way I do it. How would I would have? You do your inspection. You don't bring a car in every 6 months for an oil change, which you should. You bring it in for the inspection, which, oh, by the way, includes an oil change. Because the oil change is just the physical part of draining the old oil and putting new oil and new filter in. But it's while you're there and while you're at it. And I can tell you this, if you're going on a trip and you say, oh, I need fresh oil, and so you get an oil change, and you go to a fast in, fast out place, okay, which is not my cup of tea. But it's convenient, you know. But you go to a fast in, fast out place, and they change your oil, and then you get 150 miles down the road, and a belt breaks, and puts you down on the road, or makes the engine overheat because you don't know. And don't you think, well, didn't they see that? Did they look at that when they were under the hood? And so therein lies the essence of an oil change. An oil change is a byproduct of a vehicle 6-month inspection, and it should be positioned that way so that people would know that when they take their car in, number one, it ain't going to happen in 10 minutes. And if it does, then there's been no inspection at all. And I've had voice-to-voice, face-to-face conversations with, in fact, I had with the president of Jiffy Lube, actually is what it was, Mark Graham. I mean, brilliant guy, business, a terrific guy. And I was at SEMA, and Victor, he was bragging. He said, well, Bobby, we've got our processes down to 8 minutes and 40 seconds. I said, what? 8 minutes and 40 seconds. He said, we have different oils so that when somebody comes in with a SUV oil, really, an SUV oil or a sedan oil, really, or a convertible oil, really, but that's the way they set it up. You push the button and the car, they take the VIN and automatically knows, so they put it. So granted, they could, from in to out, they got it down to 8 minutes and 40 seconds. And he thought that was really fantastic. I thought it was the worst thing I ever heard in the world because
poor service.
Well, but see, that's where the uneducated public comes in, because they don't know any better. Because when you take let's reverse it. You take your child in to see the doctor. You wait for 30 minutes or an hour in the waiting room, even though you had an appointment, and you go in and the doctor spends 2 minutes with you. And you know, so we all want as much of the doctor's time as possible. Why? So we can get the information we need to make intelligent decisions, or to find out if our body's okay. And so with it, large investment of automobiles, which I think now the average is $35,000, and don't quote me on that, but I believe that the average new car price is $35,000. That's a lot of money when you add the interest to the note. And so you want to make sure that you're doing at least your part, and your part means that you find a trustworthy automotive shop, and you challenge that shop to take care of your car. And you go in and you say, I don't know anything about cars, but here's what my car is doing that it didn't used to do. It shakes, or it has noise, or I smell something that it's not right. Well, you know, all those things, Victor, that seem simple, and they really are, but there's so much voodoo and black magic and lack of education. And so that's what really I enjoy about this program, education. But with regard to your engine, let me say this and share this with you, because I know this, and if I didn't share this with you, I wouldn't feel that I'd done my job here. Number one, it doesn't matter if you can create the Holy Grail. If it doesn't pass emissions, and it doesn't pass emissions and durability. And to that end, Dr. Peter Hofbauer is the individual that designed the Volkswagen diesel engine years ago. And he designed, more recently, in the last 10 years, opposing cylinders, opposing pistons, OPOC, I think is what it was. Anyway, this was an engine that had, I think, 76 parts in it, or maybe had 76 pounds. Anyway, it was a small engine you could hold in your hand. And he rented a cell, not a prison cell. He rented an engine cell, which is where you put an engine on a dynamometer and you test it, from Roush Industries in Michigan. I'd been there, and I spent an hour and a half with Dr. Peter. And he retired from VW, and then he designed this engine with no cylinder heads. It uses a set of pistons that come together in horizontally opposed pistons on the left side and the same on the right side. And the crankshaft was the neatest thing in the world. The crankshaft is a two-cycle engine, and the crankshaft had two sets of rods, connecting rods. The regular connecting rod, which you can picture in your mind, right? Well, imagine a set of crutches in like Run Forrest Run. I'll never forget that, in the movie, when you got crutches for someone who's handicapped. So the one piston was being driven by the crank rod on the center section, while the other piston on the opposing cylinder, on the same cylinder, was coming toward one piston, and one piston going toward the other. They're going toward each other, and the two pistons created the combustion chamber. And his biggest challenge was, and when I was there, his biggest challenge was, he said, Bobby, here's what's left on this engine. And by the way, Vinod Khosla, who is a venture capitalist, and Bill Gates joined together and gave him an extra $34 million at the particular time that I was there, within a month or so, I guess, and to further his pursuit of this engine. And his challenge was he had to meet emissions for a diesel engine, and he also had to run it 100 hours on the dyno at wide open throttle, to pass the torture test. And those were the two tests that he had. So I asked him, which I would ask you, you have to have this facility, and you have to have the seed money, and you have to have engineers, and then once it's finished, who's going to buy it? Because to approach a Ford or a GM or a Mercedes-Benz, they got their own gig. So by and large, you'd be hard-pressed to even get an audience with their engineers. And so that's another hurdle. And I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm just sharing with you what I know, because these are facts. Anyway, So I asked him.
That's exactly why I'm phoning you up, because what you're telling me is
Right.
exactly what I've been thinking about, and I was wondering if there's somebody, that outfit that had the facility to actually make an engine. And now, did he use an injector or a spark plug on this engine, that the opposing pistons?
No, it's two-cycle. So the ports in the cylinder wall. And if you know how a two-cycle works,
he blew the exhaust out
yes, yeah. Now,
like the old Jimmy diesels.
Yes, now and to that end, well, I don't know about the Jimmys, but it's two-cycle. But here's what he did.
They were two-cycle.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
They were. Yeah.
So Victor, here's what he did. He located the port in such a way that when the piston went down and pushed the exhaust out, and the intake, the new fuel came in, it was changed in its position to reduce the volatility of toxins in the crankcase for emissions control. And he showed me, and it was fabulous. You would love this. He showed me on his computer. I was privy to this. And he said, Bobby, I'm going to show you something that the government paid in Germany $10 million. And it was a graphic illustration in real time of the combustion process inside a cylinder. And it was the most magnificent thing I think I'd ever seen. And it was on his computer. And the neat thing about this is he could build two of these engines and put them side by side. And then he had a electrical engineer from California that was designing a clutch so it used two sets of this engines to launch the vehicle like a UPS truck. And then once the vehicle got up to speed, you disconnected one engine from the other because they're bolted together, but they have a clutch that connects them, and then you shut one down. So it was really fascinating. I'm out of time. OPOC, I believe that was the term of that. Another hour coming up. Thank you, Victor, for your call. Always interesting. I'm Bobby Likis. See you shortly. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, there are a lot of things going on behind the scenes in a repair shop beyond diagnosing cars. Sometimes technicians get caught up in a repair that just keeps needing more. Recently, an 05 Saturn came in the shop. A 15-year-old car, 150,000 miles. Our young customer was dealing with a coolant leak, a slow, steady drip on the engine area on the driver's side. After a cooling system pressure test, we determined the lower radiator hose was leaking. We replaced the lower hose, topped off the system, and parked the vehicle. All good. Upon prepping for pickup the next day, you can imagine our disappointment to see coolant leaking from the right side of the radiator. A $500 repair. Our solution? A bottle of K-Seal, which can cost under $20. K-Seal features ceramic technology and is designed to repair leaks without clogging. One bottle completely solved the problem, sealed the leak within 10 minutes. K-Seal is available at fine retailers everywhere, like Napa Auto Parts. So when you have a cooling system that has a leak, don't just seal it, K-Seal it. For more information, go to kseal.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Count down to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And a good morning. I hope that you're feeling tip-top, ship shape. That's whatever I'm thinking this morning, and I hope that your car is doing well. If you have any car questions, this hour I'll devote more to you and your side of the microphone. So you feel free to give me a call. John will take your calls at 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546, and he will put you in a queue and I'll put you on the air. Active Tuned Mass Modules, ATMM. Don't you love acronyms? Only the government, this is not a government, but only the government can, produce more acronyms than the car makers. But this is really, really cool. This being an Active Tuned Mass Module. What is that? I don't have time to tell you because I got a break coming up. But I am going to tell you when I come back because this is the neatest thing that I've seen. It just shows you the complexity of today's automobiles and why you need to know more about the sophistication of the vehicle that you drive so you can better understand your limitations and its limitations, or the duo, you and your car. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part today by FordParts.com, your one-stop shop for Motorcraft, Ford parts, Ford accessories, and Omnicraft parts. See your dealer for participation and details. Find it, buy it, and get back to work. FordParts.com. Coolant leaks can be expensive, with repairs costing a few $1,000s or more. And these problems often hit vehicles late in life when they may be only worth a few $1,000s. There is an alternative. K-Seal is a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
O'Reilly! It's O-Rewards Bonus Points Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Earn double points on all sale items like wiper blades, motor oil, tools, and more. Are your wiper blades streaking, shattering, or skipping? Save $8 per pair on Bosch Icon wiper blades, plus earn double O-Rewards points. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You've heard me talk about Motorrad's leading the way with automotive thermostats, fuel, oil, and coolant caps. Now, Motorrad's using their expertise in Tier 1 OEM facilities to deliver advanced engine management solutions. Products like camshaft and crankshaft sensors, ignition coils, mass airflow sensors, even variable valve timing solenoids. And Motorrad's aftermarket products are designed and manufactured to meet or exceed original equipment specifications. Learn more about Motorrad products and industry-leading application coverage at Motorrad.com.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You know, you're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me, whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I said we would go directly to the phone, so I'm going to do that. And then sometime within this first segment, I am going to share with you what the active tuned mass module is on a new vehicle. But the reason I'm waiting on this is because I think that Joseph, who has called in with a comment about Victor's call of last hour, who said he had an engine that he felt would, I won't go into what all it was because I don't have time to do that, except to say that never think that everything that could be invented has been invented, because you always have to be in the mechanical industry open to an open mind to new technologies. Joseph, thank you so much for calling. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Thank you, Bobby. Yeah, I understand we don't want to spend time on it. It's just, I think it would be wise if the gentleman would seek out a legal counsel specifically for that, because there's a lot of pitfalls that he could fall into. It costs him a lot of money, and it can be a lot of trouble. I know. I've been through the process. Okay, my issue is... So I got my daughter's girlfriend's Mazda 3 four-door sedan that, unfortunately, she's a college girl, and she drives it and drives it and drives it until something catastrophic happens.
Yeah, we're familiar. We're actually adjacent to Pensacola Christian College, and we get a lot of students over there. And I'll tell you, there's a great friend of mine. They started off as customers, Pat and Jean, and they are like aunts and uncles to a lot of the students over there, and they let them come to their house and they cook, and so they called me and they said, I've got Joanne from Michigan, and I've got and this has happened multiple times, and I'll tell you, while I really appreciate Joseph, Pat, and Jean thinking so much of me, you talk about pressure. You know that before you look at the car, it's got 150,000 miles. They've hit a curb. This is just one of them recently, and it's not going to be an easy thing to do. So the first thing we do is we look at it, and then we call the parent, and we talk to the father or the mom wherever they're from, and their child is here in Pensacola going to Pensacola Christian College, and then that way we're on the same page, because unless you're on site and see what all we're having to deal with, all you can feel like is, wow, here's a shop, and my daughters are sons at school, and my, what's this going to cost, and those sorts of things. But anyway, I'll turn the mic back to you. Please continue.
And almost 40 years of being in business, automotive business, I experienced very similar situations when I wound up on the West Coast after military service. But so, yeah, it's a very similar situation.
Sure.
They don't have a clue, and the father's kept out of the loop. But what really torques me, and I'm sure you as a professional mechanical business or car business, is when you've had two or three, or at least two mechanics who have acted like they've done something and actually have created more problems. So this is the second car this year I've had this issue with. And I'm not in business to be, I have a whole different profession, but I try to help out these kids. Sure. Because, like what you said, it gets expensive. I just happen to have a lot of expensive equipment, and it's sort of like, my hobby. Okay, so the issue here is that, and I've consulted a Mazda mechanic who worked at Sansing for 10 years, okay, because I was ready to bring it to Sansing and say, guys, you got proprietary, computers, right, software that I can't access, and I cannot narrow down this issue with this ABS light and anti-skid. And so as it turns out, a newer system I do have now has allowed me to eliminate 8 of 10 codes out of ABS. Okay. But the last one that I'm really cooked on is that I've swapped sensor. I've done everything you can possibly do, old school as well as new tech, using new technology. And the mechanic that I spoke to said, listen, he says, I've seen problems with, and since other people have worked on this, sometimes they put a bearing in backwards and the magnetic part does not pick up on the sensor. But I've got two opposing sensors not wanting to read wheel speed, and I've swapped the sensors. I've swapped in the rear. I just swapped the rotors. The bearings completely, just to see if it's in line or something. And I just can't get it to reproduce. But like I did once before in my life, called you right before I was at my last leg on something on my mother-in-law's car. Whatever we did talk about, I did finally attack, and boom, it solved the problem because it was actually the main ECU. But the troubleshooting brought me all through everything, as you were aware, sometimes everything else. So my question to you is that I know you can't help me fix this car over the phone. My question more is that have you ever seen any anomalies with Mazda per se on their ABS systems where it seems like no matter what you do, now I have not run the scanner yet since I put this new bearing in. I'm just finishing that up this morning. But after I do that, if it still is not talking to the ABS module, and I've checked the VIN number because there was a series of modules that were bad, but this one is not part of that problem. We live in what they say a high temp, high humidity area, and there were some problems with contactors in the ABSs, but this one's communicating. So anything at all on your mind that you could possibly throw my way that I feel like I've had this car in here for several weeks. It's not like it just got here.
Well, Joseph, if I may, yes, we had one recently, and it's not just an anomaly for a Mazda. It's for all cars. This particular vehicle needed a hub bearing. The hub bearing, as you know, like a CV joint. A CV joint or a pinion or a flywheel has teeth on it, and that is where you get it's called the reluctor, and that as it spins with and turns with the wheel, then it's got the magnetic pickup that's about 60 thousandths from it. Doesn't touch, of course, because it uses electromagnetic switching to work. So, having said that, if you have a reluctor, you have a CV joint, you'd have like a ring. And it'd be like a ring around your finger, except it'd be 4 inches in diameter, and it would press onto the CV joint. But in some vehicles, that reluctor is not external, like I just talked about, having like a flywheel. You see where I'm going. The reluctor is built into the face of the bearing, the hub bearing. And you can put those in backwards, or you can order a part that is not for an ABS car. It drives you crazy because it looks the same, and if you held it side by side, it would be the same, except that if you looked at and turned it up like a Coke bottle, you turned to look at the bottom, there would be like an epoxy ring around, say 3/8 of an inch wide, a band around the perimeter facing the interior of the car. And that would be, if you look at it closely, it would have serrations, except it wouldn't be serrations, it's teeth. It's just that they pour it in epoxy, so it's all smooth, but therein lies the problem, because, and this happened to us, we got two bearings. Luckily, Johnny Bars, who is our master ASE certified tech, he's been there and done that. He said, this is the right bearing. And then our parts manager said, no, that's the correct bearing. It was the correct bearing, but not for ABS application. And so there's where you can really, you say, well, I put a new part on, and in the process of putting the new part, you disconnected something, and which caused a problem. And another thing too, that's a real issue with ABS, and with anything computer controlled, is voltage. They all work on low voltage, and so if you have a high ohm resistance in any wire or any set of wires, or a bad ground, which is high ohm, then the computer doesn't get the correct signal. So what you have to do is, and I'm glad you called me, is you have to just punt sometimes. You got to start over and say, wait a minute, I've done everything I know to do. What haven't I done? Well, go back to basics, and basics means that you should be able, if you have equipment, to, with the car in the air, turn a wheel and read the speed sensor to verify and validate that wheel, that speedometer in that wheel, i.e. the reluctor, is sending a signal to the computer. I don't know if you can do that or not, or if you have the equipment or not,
No.
but can you?
I've done that. No, I've done that. That's where I identified I had a right front and a left rear not sending the signal. And I'm not meaning to cut you off because there's other listeners and they need to hear what you're saying.
Right.
I have drilled down pretty much everything you've said. I've managed the bearing issue. I know one side was magnetic, definitely.
Right.
I made sure I inserted that correctly. It is on now, but I haven't tested anything yet because I could call you this morning, and last night is when I pressed in that.
Got it. Well, then to that end, Joseph, then test it, and let's go to the next step. But I will say this, and we have a hard break coming up, and then I'm going to go to Al and Brian, so folks stay right there. But Joseph, in closing, I'll just share this with you. It's unusual that you would have two different sensors that weren't reading. That's very unusual, because you just don't have two broken bones in the body unless you're in a heck of a wreck. And
right.
So that tells me that this car has been through some history that you may not be aware of. So you continue on your trek, and you continue to call me, and we'll pick up from there at another day. In the meantime, folks, I'll be back soon. Being car care aware is important all year round, but winter is an especially critical time, as harsher conditions can strain your automobile. Here are a few items to check, courtesy of the Car Care Council. Winter means shorter days and longer nights. It's a great time to make sure interior and exterior lights are working properly, and don't forget to make sure your headlights are properly aimed. This item is often overlooked. The best way to warm up your engine in the winter is to drive gently at the start. Make sure your ice scraper and snow brush are accessible, and replenish your emergency kit. Jumper cables, a flashlight, blankets, extra clothes, bottled water, non-perishable food, and a first aid kit with any medication that may be needed. It may seem like a lot, but better safe than sorry. For more great tips, videos, and recommended service schedules, visit carcare.org. And while you're there, order a free copy of the Car Care Guide for your glove compartment. That's carcare.org. Today's Repair Spotlight is for gasoline-powered engines with 60,000 plus miles. At this age and high mileage, vehicles can develop irritating small oil leaks that can make a mess and ultimately cause serious damage to engine and chassis components. The solution? Berryman's B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator. It's simple to use and safe for engine components like catalytic converters and oxygen sensors. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator cleans and protects the crankcase and engine oil system on all gas-powered vehicles, and conditions and revitalizes seals and gaskets to help stop oil leaks. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator contains zinc-based ZDDP and molybdenum moly to help fight friction, heat, and wear. It helps prevent sludge formation to maximize engine performance and life. Don't put up with those pesky oil leaks. Add some Berryman B60 to your motor oil and add another level of protection for your engine. Learn more about Berryman B60 and other great products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip
from Geico Auto Insurance. When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans. When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer. I want to be a warm fleece on a cold day. Be a football I want to be a bike that races around the country. I want to be a bench on a forest trail. When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis. We're going to go to New York and take your call, Al's call. But first, let me give you the number, 888-227-2546. That's 888 Car Clinic. Al, thank you for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Bobby, first of all, I want to thank you for your tips on my 91 Chevy with the Vortec.
Yes.
That was skipping on number 8 cylinder.
Right.
Well, I hit so many times, always say, recheck what you did, recheck what you did.
Yeah.
I did everything you said. So I popped the cap off the distributor, took the distributor cap. You know that little metal tab that's inside the rotor?
Yeah.
That was chewed up.
Yeah.
So what I did is, when I took the rotor off, I felt movement side by side in the distributor. So I went and got a distributor, and I put it in. And with another cap and another rotor and everything, I checked everything twice. Your tips got me through this. I want to thank you so much for that, and I'm glad you didn't retire.
Well, I guess we all get lucky every once in a while.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But, you know, I'll tell you, I'll never forget, and just a quick story, I tested an electrical circuit for like 2.5 hours. This is years ago, before we had DVOMs with a test light. And I tested the electrical circuit, and I said, this does not make sense, does not make sense. I know this bulb is good. I know it's got power coming to this socket. The brake light still doesn't work, or whatever it was. Anyway, the test light, the bulb in the test light was bad. And I mean, and any person that's been in the field for any length of time will tell you the first thing you do when you go to test is you test the test unit, and so you go to a known ground, and so just like the gentleman just called it the ABS, he's going to go back now and because let's face it, if you got an ABS system that's in op, and you find two opposing wheels, right front and either a rear and a front, that just doesn't make sense. You'd have two of those at one time. But I'm glad you got over the hump there, and so obviously.
I tell you what, I was telling my buddy. He said, "What made you check the distributor again?" And I told him, I said, "Well, I called. It's the first time because I listen to your show every week, okay?
Yes,
and I learn to pick up little tips what to do." So I said, I called Bobby Lamford in Florida. I said, that guy's the godfather of cars. He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, I called him last week, and this week I did everything he told me to do. And then I turned around, I said, when I took the cap off, and I seen the play in the rotor, I seen okay, and then I seen that broken part. Right away I knew either the bushing underneath where it goes on the shaft, I figured something was wrong with that. So I pulled it out. I went and got another one. I put it in. As soon as I put the cap back on, the new rotor, the new cap, plugged the wires in, hooked the battery back up, started it up. It didn't even make a full revolution, and she was running. So I cleared the light with my code reader, and I drove for about 60 miles yesterday, and the light did not come on. I said, "Oh, this guy's an angel for me."
Well, you know, I will tell you, Al, I really appreciate that. And to that end, I was living that experience with you just now. And folks, make no mistake about it, we are professionals in the industry, and you pay us for our services. But the realization and the satisfaction that comes with repairing something that's broken, there's something about a person in the business that you have to have that. And I'll tell you, that's what drives you and what drives people like me, because once you fix a problem, and see on this car, folks, Al had a number 7 cylinder. I remember he had a number 7 cylinder, and he got that fixed, and then it was number 8 was missing, and it was okay before he started. And so I will tell you, I really appreciate your kind words, but I appreciate you giving me that report, and congratulations. Here's the bad news. You're hooked forever. Now you're going to try to fix everything that comes about.
Well, no, Bobby, before I got crushed at work by a truck, I managed a muffler shop in Rochester, New York for 25 years. So I'm retired now. I'm 71. Back February, I turned 71. And I'll tell you what, I remember the 283s. You could put a set of points in there.
Yeah,
you put a rotor in, you got
right.
the little iBox. And what I learned about this is on them Vortec motors, you can't put the distributor in and be one tooth off because you can't turn it.
Right.
You have to be right on the money when you set it in.
That's correct. Well, hey,
and I experienced, and I told my girlfriend, I said, she said, well, how'd you get it running? I said, I listened to Bobby Lamford, his advice.
Okay. Well,
so you're my hero, buddy.
Thank you, buddy. I really appreciate that. I do thank you very much. So have a great day, and thanks for the feedback. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bobby.
Mm-hmm. So folks, see, just like I told Al that, well, you're hooked now. You're going to try to fix everything. That just connects me to the program even longer. Let's go from New York to Texas, and then your calls. This is the time to get in before the end of the program because we run out of time. So I'm forewarning you, 888-227-2546. Brian from Texas, thank you for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Bobby, for the program.
Sure, my pleasure.
Yes, sir. I have a 2001 Chevy Silverado. It has a 5.3 V8, 5-speed overdrive transmission. It keeps setting a code. It's a PO 171 and a PO 174. From what I've found out, I mean it's a lean mixture, both bank. I changed the mass sensor, the mass airflow. It only seems to set the code when the outside temperature in the morning is right about 60 or under. For instance, this morning, it was about 47 degrees. I went out and, man, it just ran terrible. I went to another town about 30 minutes away. About halfway, I checked the code. I've got a little reader, and it had set the code. So I cleared it, drove probably another 15, 20 miles, and no codes have been set. Everything's warmed up. Any ideas what that might be?
I do have an idea. Number one, there could be a physical item, and when I say physical, I mean if you had a bad sensor, then it's physically broken, or has a wire or ohms resistance, then that would trigger the computer to make the light come on. But if you had all the computer parts and sensors were right on the money, but you had like excessive carbon buildup on the intake valves, that would not trigger the computer when it warmed up, and here's why. And I think about this because you've got a 2001 model. How many? And what? 150,000, 200,000 miles?
Let's see if it'll come up here.
Oh, he's in the truck. Oh, how cool
Yeah,
is
I'm
that?
sitting in the truck. Got 194,650 miles.
Didn't miss it much. Okay, so here's what we know. There are two things that think of. Number one, there's a vacuum hose that feeds the PCV system that runs on top of the engine on the left driver side valve cover. That's the left side always. Left and right. The right bank is always the passenger side because you always look at the left and right as though you're behind the steering wheel, not looking at the front of the vehicle. Now, so that I want you to find that vacuum hose. It's near the left rear corner of the valve cover, and think of a snake that's shedding. It might look okay on the surface, but if you lift the hose up, the belly would be serrated and cracked and pulled in and leaking vacuum. And of course, any rubber item that is cold is going to shrink. So if it shrinks, just like an intake exhaust manifold, and Brian, in older cars where we had cast iron exhaust manifolds, they could leak because where they mated onto the head, it would in the cold weather they'd leak. And you crank it up, and then after it warmed up, that would go away because the head and the exhaust would expand, and it would close in the leak. So I said all that to say that the first thing you want to do is check the vacuum leaks, and forget the check engine light. You just know that you've got a problem that comes on. That's the first thing, and you can do this by using like some lubricant spray or carb cleaner or something like that, and spritz around the intake manifold and vacuum everywhere that the upper cylinder comes together, and that's the intake manifold, any fittings on the intake manifold, a PCV system, and you already put a mass airflow, but the hose that goes from the mass airflow, and feed the ductwork that feeds the air intake, so that all those things in there, you want to spray around, spritz around, not saturate, but just enough so that if you do have a vacuum leak, then for sure when you spray flammable liquid in there, the engine's going to change RPM. So if you can affect the RPM of the engine externally without going to the mouth of the engine or where the air box is, you don't want to go there. Although you might want to start there so you can be assured that what you're using does affect the engine. You could into the air box where the air filter is, and you see what effect it has on the engine, and then you go beyond that on the other side of the air box, which is the sealed side that goes to the engine and all of the surroundings. So you spritz around there and see if you can find the leak, because you can do that hot or cold, because even though cold is worse, it's still there, whatever the problem is. When it's hot, it just doesn't show up as easy. Now, you understand where I'm saying there? So I got another idea.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's possibly a vacuum problem.
Yeah.
Anything back?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then the other idea is that there's no problem externally at all. You have polyps that are growths on the back of the intake valve. So here's what happens. You fire the car in the morning. When you fire the car in the morning, you crank the car and run the car is what I meant by that. The first 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes or 5 minutes, the engine is cold and requires more fuel. As a result, the computer will insert more fuel. And I'll give you an idea. Blink your eye. That's 200 milliseconds. Everybody, blink your eye. That's 200. A fuel injector is open 3 milliseconds. Unless it's cold, and then it's open up to 9 milliseconds. Well, still, that's a nit. So, if the computer, if the computer is dealing with a cold engine and tuning the engine to the cold engine, it will put in 6 to 8 to 9 milliseconds of fuel. And that fuel goes by the intake valve. But if the intake valve has a dried out polyp, which is a carbon cluster, that's overnight dried out, it absorbs that extra fuel and it causes extremely lean misfire in the morning. That's when you use an injector cleaner, and you can go to berrymanproducts.com and check it out there. Folks, recently a 99 Chevrolet Blazer came into the shop. The owner was having problems with hesitation upon acceleration. He'd already changed out several parts: spark plugs, wires, ignition coil, mass airflow sensor, fuel filter, and the air filter element. He even changed the thermostat and coolant temperature sensor. Still had the same problem after putting a lot of money in this car, and he was frustrated. We dug a little deeper, cleaned the throttle body, and checked for trouble codes. No codes. So we recommended Berryman B12 Chem Tool. Carbon deposits and dirty fuel injector nozzles are a common problem with drivability in late model engines. We also recommended a higher quality gasoline. The customer noticed improvement on the first day, and only a few days and a few hundred miles later, the problem was completely gone. Berryman B12 Chem Tool features HEST, Berryman's exclusive high-energy solvent technology. The result is a more complete combination of available chemical technologies. Drive to berrymanproducts.com for more information. That's berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease. and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I want to share a quick story with you. Jason E., I won't say his last name, but Jason E. is our IT go-to person. And he just does a fantastic job. Well, he called me this week, which I think it's kind of neat because I usually call him. And he said, I'll need to replace the battery in my Volkswagen Jetta. And I went to O'Reilly Auto Parts, but there's an issue because of backing up the computer or keep alive memory and that. And he asked me what to do, and so I gave him information. And it was really kind of neat. So I share this story with you because I want you to remember one name, Clarius. Clarius is a manufacturer of batteries, and 1 in 3 batteries is a Clarius in the world. I mean, that's mind-boggling. And Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by The Battery Shop on YouTube. What's the connection? Clarius developed the battery shop, and it's called The Battery Shop on YouTube. So for all you do-it-yourselfers, The Battery Shop features videos on battery installs, technical tips, and battery technology. It's a great resource for car battery information in lay terms. That's the Battery Shop channel on YouTube. And I want to give Clarius a great attaboy because what they're doing is making a difference and helps me to help you. Again, Clarius. Go there, check it out, The Battery Shop on YouTube. Let's go to Kenny in Missouri. Kenny, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
You bet. Thank you. Good show, Bobby.
Thank you, sir.
I've got a 2014 Honda CR-V, and it's having problems. It's got 108,000 on it, and I'd say about 90,000. It started to flutter a little, like when it tried to shift out of first into second.
Right.
With very little acceleration, just barely going along. If I really accelerate, it just goes right through the gear with no problem. So I don't know. I did a little internet looking, and it seems like a lot of them are having this problem. And
is that a car?
just saying drain.
Yeah, because does that vehicle can it have a CVT? Is it a constant variable transmission?
I'm not sure. It's all-wheel drive.
I think it may have a CVT, and the CVTs require the changing of specific fluid for that transmission and that transmission only every 30,000 miles.
Okay.
And in fact, Rusty Staley is our service manager, and he just bought a Nissan, and they got a great deal on it. I mean, it had, I don't know how many miles it had on it, but the first thing he did was put it in the shop. I said, I thought you just bought that car. He said, yeah, what are you doing to it? He said, I'm changing the fluid. It's got a CVT transmission. Enough said. So before I would pay any money, Noel, here's my advice to you. Will this vehicle act up anytime you want it to? Could you take me for a ride if we were, in the same area and show me what it's doing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I want you to visit your local auto service shop or the dealer, your choice. You know, but you know, you're not there necessarily to spend money. Maybe you'll be a customer if they treat you right. Maybe that might be a way that you can test their friendliness and their professionalism, and ask for a technician to ride with you, because one of the most disconnects in the automotive service industry is the customer's complaint and what the technician understands that the customer was complaining about, because there's some service writer that is writing down what Kenny's saying, and then that service writer, who knows more about the jargon than you, turns to Bobby, the technician, and says, well, Bobby, this car's got an engine, it's missing and skipping as he drives. Well, that's not what the car's doing. Kenny didn't say that. Kenny said it kind of when it shifts the gears, or vice versa. So it's better for you to drive and ride with a technician. So that's the first thing that I recommend for you, to save you time, which is money, and to save the shop time, which is money. And hey, if they won't let somebody ride with you, I don't mean you go up and they stop what they're doing. You know, talk to them. Wait till about 10 o'clock after they've had their morning run of cars, and just say, you know, I need somebody to ride with me. I may leave my car, I may not. And any shop worth its salt will say, well, I don't have anyone right now, but give me 5 minutes and I'll have a break or so. And so you drive. Do not let the technician drive. You drive and show that technician what your car's doing you don't like. And then don't even mention transmission. Just say, let me show you what it's doing. And then and the technician may say, that sound feels like a misfire. Or, you know, because see, when you put excess throttle, you can mask a lot of issues, because the computer changes the pressure in the transmission, changes the fuel delivery, changes the timing. I mean, if you want to truly find out what a car is made of, you don't drive it hard, you drive it like normal. Because if you drive it hard, I mean, I can't tell you how many technicians that have driven cars that I've taken in, and they come back and say, car runs fine. Well, what did you do? Well, I went on a regular loop around here. Well, you know, and I went, you know, it has good acceleration. I said, no, that's not the issue. The issue is this car is under normal circumstances, normal driving. What is normal? Well, normal to a car owner is not the same as normal to a technician. Believe you me. So you know, because technician's got his own little idea. Well, let's see how much power it's got and see how the brakes work. That's not what it's all about. It's all about being off duty, off work, and you're cruising to church on Sunday or to a theater on Sunday afternoon, and the car's got this weird 30 mile an hour boop 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 boop. You say, I never noticed that. Well, no, because you were on the way to work in a hurry or on the way home in a hurry. So that's what I'd recommend that you do. Then when this technician that rides with you sees what your car is doing, he or she will have a better communication and a better understanding of what you don't like about your car, and they can save you some money. Now, if it is a CVT transmission, I hope it's not, then the first thing you want to do is change the fluid. And even if you haven't had transmission, if this turns out to be an engine problem and it's a CVT transmission, change that fluid anyway, because you got 100,000 miles on it. You got it?
Okay.
All right, my
yes,
friend.
sir.
All right, there you go.
Okay, I appreciate it, Bobby.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kenny. And folks, I want to share this with you because I recently received a letter, and then Rusty and Walter, I want to come to you before I go. With plenty of time left. 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. So here I am, after 28 years on the air and more than 100,000 car questions, and I never had a bad call. I really haven't. And I got a note from someone that says, oh, maybe you should retire. And I won't keep talking about this except to say that recently I got this letter and from Daytona, and this hour I want to share it with you. It says, Dear Mr. Likis, I don't know a thing about cars, but I listen to your show Saturday broadcast on WNDB every Saturday. I enjoy it so much that I listen to it rerun every Saturday night. It upset me to hear you say last Saturday that a listener thought you should take less time with your callers. Prior to retiring as an assistant principal, I was a teacher. When I asked a question in class, I always prodded the student who was answering to expand upon his or her answer to come up with various ways to solve the problem and to use deductive reasoning. If you were a student in one of my classes, I would give you an A+ for every answer you provide your callers. You're well versed in your field. You're kind, caring, humorous, thoughtful, and respectful with your callers. Please continue to provide many more years of advice for your callers. You don't want this former teacher to give you a grade of F- for attendance because your broadcast is no longer on the air. God bless you, and ignore those with mean-spirited hearts. Most sincerely, Anne Marie Aguirre, Ph.D. So, Dr. Anne Marie, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You got me hooked for as long as I can breathe now. Let's go to Rusty in Texas. Rusty, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
How are you today?
I couldn't be any better. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Yourself?
Doing okay.
What can I do for you?
I've been working on an 05 Econoline club wagon, and I bought it going into limp mode. Anytime you accelerate, I've changed out the throttle pedal and throttle position sensor and the throttle body, and it was still doing the same thing. When you shut it off, the error code goes away, but the error code says miscommunication in between throttle position sensor and throttle pedal.
Right.
So I took it to the Ford house, and they said that I put a bad throttle body on it, replaced the throttle body, and it still is doing the same thing. I checked all the wiring for short or for frayed wires, and I cannot find any. So I'm calling you to see if you might be able to point me in a good direction.
Well, what has to be done when you have situations like this is you have to do pinout tests. And a pinout test it can be really sophisticated, because what you do is what a technician does, and this kind of repair, Rusty, calls for an ASE certified technician, and here's why. You have to back probe, leaving all the wires in place. And to back probe means that you have to go in between using a very thin wire, like a little stainless steel wire, and you have to push it. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about then?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. You have to back probe and then measure voltage and from one point to another. Then you also have to disconnect the connectors on one end, maybe inside the car, and then go to the body to the ECM, the electronic control module, or the powertrain module, and check for continuity, and then you have to check for any ohms resistance. So it's not as simple as it sounds, except that if you had a light bulb that didn't work in your home, and you put a new light bulb in the kitchen, and it still didn't work, and the other ones did, and you go to the switch and it worked, you know that you had a wire problem between the bulb and the switch. It could be the socket, or it could be the wire that feeds that particular socket. And so you got to go take the bulb out in the kitchen and go to that socket using with the power off, and use an ohm meter, and then go to the switch and see if you got continuity. And even if you have continuity, and here's the trick, Rusty, it's impossible unless you have the equipment to load test that. And I'll give you an example. A battery cable could be the size of your little finger and have 200 strands of wire. So if you were to take that battery cable and sever 180 strands of wire, you'd only have 20 strands left. You would still get the same voltage reading. You'd still get the same ohms reading. But guess what? When you tried to crank the vehicle, you'd melt those 20 wires, because you don't have the power and the continuity and the true bulk to handle the current draw. And that's called load testing. So, and I've learned that through the years, that you say, well, this wire, it works. I've got an ohm meter. I'm 0 ohms. I've got 0 ohms here. Well, yeah, 0 ohms means you have the wires continuity from A to B, from end to end, but it doesn't necessarily, it will support a load. And so therein lies the problem, because all cars use variable voltage to determine the position
of throttle and transmission and so ad nauseum. I mean, it's just unreal. So you've got a really sophisticated issue here, and you need some professional help, and that's the best thing I can tell you.
Well, I've got a J25 3425 computer system. Can I do load testing with it?
Probably not. Probably not. Okay. Here's what I would suggest you do, and because of such a sophisticated, I suggest that you find a local service shop that has an ASE certified master technician and go over what you've done with that technician, not with a service director. Buy an hour's worth of their time and have them to check, and then but tell them what all you've done. Anyway, that's all the time that I have, not to cut you short, but that's what you've got to do. So agree to 1 hour, but also you talk to the technician. Don't you talk to the service director, and he can write the ticket, but you talk to the technician, tell him what you've done, and then go from there. You got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good luck, Rusty. Let's go from Texas to Texas. Walter, thanks for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're out of time, but what can I do for you?
I still learn stuff. I'm 84 and still learn stuff listening to you, Bobby.
Well, here's what both and I have to. You and I just have to learn, and I just learned from Jonathan, our producer for the day, that we've got 1 minute. So Walter, so next time. Hey, next. I said it. Call me early. Call me next week first, 10 till noon Eastern time. I'm right here. So I'll see you next week. And Bill's calling from New York. Bill, ain't gonna happen today. Walter, thank you for your patience and understanding. And folks, I mentioned earlier Active Tune Mass Module. That's a mass module that's mounted on the frame rail that searches out unfavorable vibrations and applies countermeasures in the 2020 Ram Heavy Duty. And why? It's because the engineers took 143 pounds off of the chassis, and anytime you reduce the mass, you have vibrations. And so they got this neat little module, electronically controlled, that vibrates in opposite directions and cancels out the vibration. Is that cool? Talk about cool. I'll see you next week. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Insurance 101, courtesy of Grundy Insurance. What is a total loss? When a vehicle's damage is determined irreparable or when the repair cost exceeds a certain percentage of the vehicle's insured value. There are several factors to consider, like damage that affects vehicle safety and lack of availability for specific parts. Grundy works with car collectors to prevent unnecessary total loss situations by providing agreed value insurance and offering the flexibility to adjust the insured value of your vehicle annually. Learn more about Insurance 101 at Grundy.com. That's Grundy.com.
O'Reilly. This is Derek's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
After the third time jump-starting my car, I finally realized my battery was dying. So I stopped by O'Reilly to have it checked. They tested it right there in the parking lot. It was bad, real bad. But they helped me find the right battery for my car and even installed it for free. Now my car starts like new.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, it starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grown, now you're here.